here's what's going on. Now that we actually have our different spheres drawn out, we have our canvas prepared, and we have our sphere examples, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be taking the value scales that we worked on. We're going to be actually creating value or applying value and color mixing to an actual object in preparation for our favorite things painting. Does that make sense? So I'm giving you an opportunity to practice it. So here we've got a couple different things happening. I know you can't see this really well, but I'm going to have this up on the board for you later. But we have direct painting, we have an underpainting, and then we have a texture underpainting. And I'll explain these two later. Right now we're going to focus on this, okay, which is a direct painting. So as I'm focusing on direct painting, basically what I've done, or what I'm going to do, is I'm actually just going to be painting directly onto my sphere without an underpainting. So it's basically I'm mixing on my palette. I'm going to be mixing on the actual canvas. So up at the top I wrote complementary because that reminds me of the color scheme that I'm using. Then I wrote direct painting because that's telling me which technique I'm using. So I'm going to be using my complementary color set of blue and orange. Now I have to make a couple of decisions. First decision is what's going to be blue, what's going to be orange. Okay, so I will ask you, what color should my sphere be? Blue. Okay, so you want my sphere to be blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually, in my palette, I'm going to take some of the phthalo blue, and I'm going to actually block it in, just nice and light. Notice I'm using just the blue, so it's very similar to watercolor at this point. I'm paying attention to my sphere, where the shadow is, where it's dark, and essentially just with the blue and water, all I'm doing is creating the illusion of three-dimensionality. Okay, so I'm just varying the lightness and darkness of the blue by just adding some water. At this point, later on, I'm actually going to be adding some white to it, okay, to make it lighter, and then what am I going to use to make it a little bit darker and duller? Eventually I'm going to add some orange. Okay, so there we go. Nice and easy. So that's essentially blocked in. Okay, that's how it starts. Pretty easy, nothing too complicated, nothing too difficult. Okay, that's how it starts. It's blocked in. Now, the background. I have to think about what I want to do with the background. I want the sphere to stand out, so I ask myself, do I want the top to be blue or orange? You can actually go technically with either one, but it's all in how you handle the values. Okay, but I heard Vinny over here say orange, so I'm going to go with orange in my background. So once again, I'm going to block it in. But paying attention to the sphere example that I had over here, it's darker on the right side and it gets lighter on the left. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to add some orange. And again, this is just basically flat, so I'm not doing necessarily anything too special. Try not to mix it too much with my sphere. I'm pulling it across. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's pretty much blocked in. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Now what I'm going to do is, now that I've got my sphere and my background blocked in there, I'm going to leave this alone because I'm going to show you how to do this a little bit later. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take some of my orange. I'm going to go into my sphere, right into the shadow, and I'm actually going to block in and put in a little bit of orange. Okay, actually a little bit more will help, because this is going to start to darken up my blue. Does this make sense? Okay. I'm going to keep on blocking that in. Now I used a little bit too much water, so it's a little bit too smooth for me, or it's flowing a little bit too much. So I can grab a little bit more blue now. Start to paint that in a little bit more, and you notice how it changes the blue because I added some orange to it. You come in and I start to keep on coming around in here. And I'm using a large flat for this. So I have a tendency of liking to paint with larger strokes. It makes my life a little bit easier. I'm going to clean that off. Now what do I need for the highlight? Yeah, I definitely need some white. So I'm going to come in here and I can grab a little bit of white. Actually, you know what? I need to make sure I rinse my brush a little bit, make sure it's not too wet. So I got my paper towel. There we go. Grab a little bit of white. Now I can start coming into the white using a little bit of a scumbling in here, coming around in a circular motion because the sphere is round. This helps me create a little bit more of a three-dimensionality. Is this making sense? And it's starting to look three-dimensional. It's not there yet. Paying attention to where my highlight is. Keep on coming around. Okay, that's a good start. It's the first layers. Does that make sense? Okay. The background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the background over here just to kind of start to darken up my orange. Ooh, that was a little bit too much blue. That's okay. The one thing about acrylics, like I told you guys before, is they are very forgiving. So even though I put a little bit too much blue in here, I'm going to be able to fix that in a second. Pull that across. Eventually I'm going to be able to get rid of that halo, just like that. Coming around. And grab some more of my orange, quite a bit, so I really load up that brush. Come back in here and come back in with more of my orange to really try to darken it up. Does that make sense? I may have gone a little bit too thick with my blue. There we go. But you can see I can start to fix it, right? And you keep going, painting, applying your orange, applying your blue. I'm going to actually probably have to clean that up a lot more because that really stinks. I'm going to have to probably let this dry and repaint it because the blue is too much. And I'm not going to be able to fix it exactly how I want to right now. But you get the idea, right? Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep working on this. You're going to start blocking in what your colors are, and then tomorrow you're going to be able to finish this. We good? Any questions? No? Beautiful.